Monday. It will be the last time I'll be streaming for this year. It's a it's a must say. It's a must. Okay, so today we're gonna do some Python Code Wars, and we're gonna do some level 8 Cailloux to start out with first. Okay, so we are going to be doing 2 square root or not 2 square root. So write a method that will get an integer array as parameter and will process every number from this array. So we're going to return a new array with processing every number of the input array like this. So the number has an integer square root, take this, otherwise square the number. Okay. Okay, so we're going to receive a list of integers, and then we need to return a list back where if the number can be square root, we're going to return the square root value, else it will be squared. Okay, so for example, the way I think about this is that, okay, so we're going to receive a list of integers. Do they have any negative numbers? They don't, but let's go ahead and do 0, 1, 2, 3. So what's going to happen here is that we're going to receive a list back. In this list, and for this list, let's go ahead and see. Can 0 have a square root? Meaning, can it be, a number has an integer square root. Does it have a square root? Does 0 have a square root? If you think about it, anything squared, can that get to 0? Essentially, that will be 0. So we're going to return back 0 and 1. Can anything squared get me to 1? Which there isn't. So we'll go ahead and square the number. And 1 squared is 2. 1. Sorry, excuse me, 1. Because 1 squared is 1 times 1. And then, unless 1 can be squared. I think that's what it is. Hi Eddie, long time no see. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're excited for the new year. I hope you're doing big things for the new year. Hopefully you're resting today. And 2, can 2 have an integer square root? Integer 2 doesn't have a square root because anything squared doesn't give you to 2. So we can go ahead and square the number, and 2 squared will give you 4. Sorry, 4. And 3 is not an integer square root. Essentially, if you can get the square root, it will be 3. So this is actually 9, because since we don't have a square root of 3, let's go ahead and square the number 3. So I know that with this, we can go ahead and say return. Well, let's go ahead and write out the brute force. We're going to use list comprehensions. List comprehension. And the reason why I'm going to go ahead and say that we're doing list comprehension is that we know for sure we want to go ahead and return back a list. So with list comprehension, you can go ahead and return that list. And in that list comprehension, it takes in an expression. So it takes in an expression, which is going to be, our expression is that we're going to return the square root of the number if it can be square root, else let's go ahead and square it. Oh, thank you, Eddie. I hope you have a great New Year's too as well. I hope you had a great Christmas if you celebrate, of course. So, else let's square root. Let's square num. So, okay, that's good. 2 p.m. is not too bad then. Hopefully you're off tomorrow and New Year's Day. So, any big plans? Do you usually stay up for midnight? So return here. I have to look at Python square root function. I wonder if that's how you do it. Square root number if for num in R else num squared. And you go squared. This is to the power square root Python function. Square root. Okay, so distance, okay. Square root sqrt, so I did do that right. So we're gonna return square root num for num, and I think that I can use power of x, pow, because I know that if you do nums, the star, that's good. I'm glad you're sleeping in. Weird. Oh, that'd be fun. I hope you guys stay up till midnight. I never make it past midnight, which is horrible. I feel like one of these years I should stay up until midnight, but I don't. Hello, Refied? I believe that's how you pronounce your name. Hello, I'm from California. How about you? So yes, so we are doing level 8 Caillou's with Python. And right now I'm using list comprehensions. And I know that if I do num with the 2 asterisks, that will give me to the power of 2, because we're trying to square it. But I think I can go ahead and use pow, which raised to the power of y. And that I'm going to pass in 2. Let's see. Okay. Did I do it wrong? Okay, square root num for num in array if num can be square root. We're gonna square root. Sorry, let me see what this is saying. If the number has an integer square root, take this. Otherwise, square the number. So we're gonna square root the number for each num in the array if the num. You know, I thought about that too as well. I was like, I think I need to import the math package, but I feel like Code Wars would take. I think Code Wars naturally has the math package in it already, but just in case. I think it's my else. I think I need to add that if part to it, because the list comprehension you need to add like if num. So we're just saying, hey, square root this number for each number in the array if the num can be square rootable. So that's what I'm trying to say right here. If the num can be square root, if square root num is, if, how do I say it's square rootable? If it's square rootable, meaning that it has no remainder, what is the right word I'm trying to say for this? Let's see. Square root num else pow. Doesn't like that, huh? Okay, so invalid syntax. Return square root. I'm pretty sure list comprehension Python. I feel like this is how to write it. List comprehensions. list.append, list.pop, list.reverse, list as a queue. I should probably get into that. List compre. Okay. So as you can see, we're gonna go ahead and square it for x in range 10. So what I was saying here is they should already have it imported. Your syntax is wrong for real list comprehension. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So yeah, based off of what this is saying, this list comprehension right here, that's what I was saying. I was saying, hey, let's go ahead and square root the number for each element in the num in array if the square root for each element in the num, because I want to grab the value, and by doing for num in R, I will be able to grab the value if the square root num is square rootable. Else, let's go ahead and square it. Invalid syntax. So essentially what I'm doing here in this list comprehension is adding a ternary operation to it. So saying if true, do this part first, else let's do this part. Put your calculation first and do the if else. Eddie, when you state calculation, are you talking about the square root part or the POW? Return square root num for num in array. Because yeah, I anticipate square root num is gonna go ahead and square it for me. Because if you have a 4, it should already convert it into a 2 if it is square rootable. That's not a word, but I can't find the right words right now. So if the square root is clean, I'm almost thinking I need to do like odd and even, because you know how if you're gonna find an odd number, it leaves a remainder of 1. Else it doesn't. Else, if there's no remainder, you know for sure that that's gonna be an even number. I almost think that's what I have to do, but I don't think I have to do that. For x. Yeah, so I'm saying square root for each number in the list if it is square rootable. Else does it show a ternary with it? Ternary. Okay, so it doesn't show a ternary. Unexpected exception rate. Name square root is not defined. Interesting. Square root SQRT. Square root num is not defined. Square or square root. Okay, let's break it down into smaller steps to figure this out. Okay, so I want to make sure, can I print, let me see if it, Let's see. Yeah, so I see what you're saying, Eddie. Although that is the case, I'm thinking the same thing you're thinking as well, Eddie. My thing is just with this, it's not looking for even or odd. It's looking to see if the number is, if it can be square root or if it needs to be squared. If it's not square rootable, and so that's what I was thinking with the same as yours. So okay, go ahead and square root this number if this number in the array can be square root. Else we're gonna go ahead and square the number. I was thinking the same thing you are as well too, Eddie. For num in R, print the square root of num. Yeah, I know. I might have to do an interval to see if I can figure it out. Yeah, without doing the list comprehension first, because I swear, I don't think, yeah, level 8 Cailloux are usually very chill, so it doesn't like my square root of num, which is interesting, because I thought Python would automatically, or for Code Wars at least, they would install the math library already, and if you look at the Python, square root is part of it. I am going to see if we can import math, because square root is a function, so that's interesting. Import square root from I think you have to do something like that. From math, import square root from the math library. Let's go ahead and import square root. Okay, see, now that's doing something. Okay, so I'm saying, hey, from the math library, let's go ahead and import the square root. So for each number in the square root, it is all, as you can see, it is starting to go ahead and square root everything. Okay, so for num in R, oops. I love how the Code Wars kind of like, hey, like highlights it red and be like, hey, look at this, don't do that. But okay, so squared list, I'm gonna say that. So I'm gonna say if num is square root of num, if square root of num is true, I don't know if this is right. What I'm saying right now, if square root of num is true, that's what I was thinking, Eddie. So I'm kind of surprised. So, but we figured that part out. So step by step. But so in this if condition right now, square root of num, I'm saying, hey, if square root of num is true, but that's tough because all of them are all true thus far. Because you can see that their square root num is going somewhere and doing something. Can I? So now I have to say, if square root of num is clean, like a full number, and it's not a decimal number, then that way I can get the square root of the number. If square root num, because as you can see here in our example, we know for sure that 3, the square root of 3 is not a clean number, so we would recommend to go ahead and square the number instead. So I would say if the square root of number is equal to a whole number, is equal to a full integer, what would be the right way to say? If square root of num, then we're going to say, hey, squared list dot append. If square root of num, if the number can be squared rootable, then we're gonna go ahead and squared num is square root of num, then we're gonna go ahead and append the squared num. Else, what we're gonna do here is say that power num is equal to, oh, maybe I need to add the power. So we can square it to the power of 2. Num.pow num and 2. Then we're gonna say square list dot append power num. Okay, so yep, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so this is a 2, this is a 1.7. So this wouldn't work. I need to add something more to it because everything in that condition was true. So we definitely don't want to do that. If square root of num is equal to a whole number. Oh, I feel horrible, but how to check if a square number is squared? If num mapped at square root, oh, we could have done mapped at square root, Eddie, instead of import. Well, you still have to import math. Never mind. But yes. Okay, so calculate to find the square root. Check if the square root is an integer. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and check if it's an integer. Okay, if square root of num that is integer. If it's an integer, okay, it doesn't like that. Square root is integer. That's my fault for making that bigger. Is underscore. Oh, it doesn't like my pow either. Okay, import pow. Int object has no attribute pow. That is my fault. Okay, so pow is a function. That's right. I keep thinking it's a method. Okay, so pow is a function. So it is not a... Okay, cool. We did it, guys. Okay, so we found out the interval method, and now I want to rewrite this into a list comprehension. And let's see. Based off what we just stated here is... Okay, let me go ahead and comment this out. We're going ahead and bring this back. So based off what we have here in this list comprehension, we're going to return the square root num for each num in the array if the square root dot num is an integer. Else, we're going to num dot pow. So otherwise, we're going to go ahead and square this value. No, invalid syntax. It still hates my else. Okay, wait. Let's see. We're gonna square root the num for each num in the array of the list if the square root num is an integer. Else, I want it to be squared. For num in R, so I'm saying, hey, let's go ahead and square this number. Let's find the square root of this number for each number in the array if the square root of num is an integer. Else, square it for me. Ternary operation. Ternary operation. Ternary operation list comprehension. Did I get that? I wonder if I got it confused. I need to see some examples. Okay, so what I have thus far. Oh, list comprehension does not like is integer. square root num will always return. That's true, because when I did the square root num earlier, it did all return floats. It didn't return any integer. So that's kind of surprising. Let me go ahead and just do it like this for a bit. Print square root of num. Yes, so that was kind of surprising. So it is a float. So, but that's kind of surprising because I wouldn't have anticipated the rest of this code to pass then, because if all of them are floats, then I wouldn't have anticipated I wouldn't have anticipated the rest of this code to pass, because like you said, they are all floats. That leads me to my other question. Then I want to go ahead and how to check if a float is an integer. Is integer keeps popping up. I don't think that's how you do it either. How to check if a float value is a whole number. Return true if the float instance is otherwise. That is true. There is you do have to consider it. All of the square root of large numbers. That is true. Let's see. Yeah, well, if I anticipated to be false, I would have figured it would have been like, I'm gonna ignore the rest of you. I'm gonna default to this, but it hates my else. I would have assumed it would have defaulted to my else, but I don't know why it didn't default to my else. Let's see. BuzzMP said, go ahead and implement a binary search integer square root. Probably a little difficult this time, or you can first convert the square root num to an integer with a round, then square it to see if it's equal to its original number. That is true. Can you, So if that's the case, because that is true, if you go ahead and square root it and you check it to see if it's equal to the number, if int of round of the square root of num is equal to square root is equal to the num, then we're going to go ahead and square root it. Else, let's go ahead and it doesn't like my else for some reason. Did I do that wrong? List comprehensions with ternary. Did I do ternary wrong? Any more elegant way? Red. I'm saying square root. I'm saying square root for each. Oh wait, maybe square root if maybe I have it wrong here. Square root if num equals num for num for, oh, okay, okay, I think I did the list comprehension wrong. Okay, so I have to say the if part first, else for I in X. I think I had it off. Square root num if the integer of the thing is equal to num, else we're gonna go ahead and power it for num in R. You need to square int round square root num. So therefore, would you recommend doing another? Then when you mean by square, do you mean do pound num of 2 for this part right here to make sure to check that it's equal to num? Because if I'm gonna go ahead and yeah, I think I switched it around, Eddie. I did a square root num if this is true, else do this for each num in R. I think I swapped that around. I think that's why it was mad at me. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so the score, I am just going to test something out just to make sure I understand what you're trying to say too as well, Betsy MP. Okay, so for example, I have a 2. And here I'm going to say, hey, return to the square root of 2, which is like, return the square root of 2, return square root of 2 if it's so square root of 2, and if you're gonna go ahead and round it, I believe what round does is you're gonna round up, correct? Am I understanding that round function right there? I think you're gonna go ahead and round up, and then so we're gonna go ahead and round up. So square root of 2 is not a clean number, that's for sure. So I have to look that up. Square root of 2, 1.4, and then 1.4. So this is square root of 2 is 1.4, and then if you're gonna round up, that becomes 2, and then 2 something, and then we're gonna go ahead and take the integer. So ultimately we would come back to 2 again, and then we're gonna say, hey, are you equal to 2? If you're true, then let's go ahead and return the square root of 2, which is 1.4. And so else we're gonna go ahead and do 2 to the power 2, which here is 4. You also need to convert the square root num into an integer first. Square root of num, I believe the square root, I am going to check something now. Square root of num if square root of num is integer else. I think it should still work with the is integer. Okay, so that was my fault with the list comprehension. So we're gonna do the condition if it's this expression, else it's going to default this for each num in the array. Okay. Yeah, that was my fault on the list comprehension of not doing the if else first. I am curious to see what other people did. The result is equal to a list, and then for each element in the array or in the list, I want to make sure I keep saying array as list and say that so I don't get myself confused later on, because array and list are almost the same, but just a little hint of some differences. So the root, so this person squared everything by 0.5. That's interesting, because why would you want to square it by 0.5? If you squared by 0.5, does that give you a clean number? 2 to the power e of 0.5, 2.7 to the, because that's interesting as to why we're going to go ahead and square it to a 0.5. Hey, see, yes, this is what I was thinking earlier, Eddie, and you were telling me too as well, because if we do as this person, or as these people did it right here, if the square root of a mod 1, if it's odd, or if you mod 1, I believe if you do the square root mod 1, it should come out to a clean whole number. Else, we're going to go ahead and square it. So this is what I was planning to do. It just took me a little longer. Yeah. I am curious, why 0.5 power to find the square root? The root for exponent is x raised to the power of a times x raised to the power of b is equal to x raised a plus b. It gives us x itself. Yeah, when you do algorithms, you do learn all these new mathematical formulas in different like that. So it's kind of cool. Okay, so why you want to go ahead and use 0.5 power to find the square is because it's essentially bring you back to the reason why you want to use 0.5 itself. It seems like that you it will give us the x number itself. I see. Also, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys, if I can find it. I wanted to do this little fun. I wanted to go ahead and keep experimenting with like Python prompts and Python prompts. And this is what I build. I mean, it's really super simple and easy right now, but I hope to go ahead and keep integrating more things into it. So yes. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and show you guys this one right here. One of the hardest questions one of the questions that is the hardest thing for me to answer, and that I keep getting asked daily, is what do you want to eat? And that's by far one of the hardest questions to answer. Sorry, I was thinking eating. But that by far is one of the hardest questions to answer. I just don't know what it is. It's a little tough. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I create this why don't I create this program to tell me what to eat? Because I like to have options. As of right now, what our options are available to us is sushi, Thai, and Italian. And what we're gonna go ahead and do is, let's go ahead and start this bad boy right here. And then so it's gonna go ahead. Oops. Oh no. What did I do? Okay. I want to be here. So in this little prompt right here, it's gonna go ahead and ask us, hey, what do you want to do today? What do you want to eat today? And then we have to go ahead and enter in a choice. So say for instance you want to eat fish. Well, wait a second. Fish wasn't in the options. We can't do that. So it handles that perspective of it, but I do see that it kicks you out of that terminal, so you have to go ahead and start it up again. Let me see how I can fix that. But another one is, let's actually I'm feeling I want to eat Thai today. So let's go ahead and eat Thai. So I chose Thai, but the computer suggested that we should go ahead and eat sushi. Definitely up to you. But one thing I want to go ahead and incorporate in this is some history. So say for instance I ate Thai yesterday, but then I want to eat Thai again today. Then the computer knows, hey, you just ate Thai yesterday. Are you sure you want to eat Thai again today? I like to have a little. I like to have a lot of options. I like to have a little variety. So yeah. Hi, Elder. Where's the up to you option? You know, that's a great question. Maybe I could definitely add it in. Exactly, Eddie. Whatever you want. But yeah, this is just trying to play more with Python prompts and trying to play more with the Python computers. Maybe I can get a little AI into this as well. So I think that'd be really fun. So this is just the start of it. So yeah, hopefully get more into it as we go along. But yeah, let's do. Let's figure out one more. I love doing level AKUs because I learn like the syntax, and as you can see, I was trying to practice more of the list comprehensions. Didn't do so hot there, but it's good. It's now going into my head, sinking into my head more. Add your function inside a while loop and add a continue and a break. You're right, Eddie. So that the terminal doesn't quit on me. That is true. Because yeah, the terminal did die on me there for a bit, and I had to go back. So, as you can see, it did die on me before too. So, so yeah. Okay, so add your function inside a while loop and add a continue and break. So, add your function inside a while loop. If user is not an option, please pick again. Okay, so I would think that the while loop would go here in line before line 9. Is that what you're thinking as well, Eddie? While user choice, well, essentially it will take over line 9. While user choice is not an option, let's go ahead and return and please pick again, and then we're going to say continue. Or continue. Like that. Is that what you're thinking, Eddie? Otherwise, let's return. Let's eat, else return. Let's try it. Fish. No, it broke. Okay. While is not an option. While computer choice, if else. While the user choice is not an option, return blank, please pick up again, and then we're gonna continue, is what I was telling it. And then it stopped though. If user choice. Return user choice is not an option, let's please pick again, continue. Oh, you know what? It's probably my indentation then now. Let's go ahead and try to play again. We're gonna say fish. Yeah, it ended. While user choice is not in options, return blank is not in the list of options. Please pick again. I wanted to continue. Is that how you say continue in Python? I'm pretty sure that's how you say continue in Python. Continue in Python. I wanted to return, it's not in choice. Please pick again. Maybe I was like, does it matter if I do continue before or after? And we're gonna do fish. Okay, so yeah, that one. So you need to add everything else to the while block. Everything else. I think I added everything else to the while block because I indented in. Let me know if that's not what you're thinking, Eddie, and that's not how you should add everything else to the while block. Yeah, because I indented it in, so I assumed that would all go under the while block. And then you would add a break statement so you can exit. The only time I want to go ahead and exit and break is if it returns this or this. Fish. So fish is not in the list of options. I assumed that continue would have said, hey, let's try again. Please pick again. Continue. And I assumed it would have repopulated. While the user's choice is not an option, then return, and we're going to say continue. And then I would have assumed continue would have asked me again if user choice is equal to computer choice. Oh, I see, it did. I see. But I love that, and I think Python, one of Python's articles I was reading, they said that the while loop is more preferred instead of doing a for loop. Well, for this case, I guess, but for LeetCode and algorithm cases, I guess a for loop is more used for that. So, yeah. But more to come on this project. More to come. Go ahead and save this. While loop. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and head off. So I hope you have the rest of a good day, Eddie. So you bet I will, Eddie. I'm gonna add a lot more options list to it. So hopefully grow it a little bit more. So yeah.